All right. I want to welcome on my next guest. We've got arguably the greatest offensive lineman the NFL has ever seen. Longtime Cincinnati Bengal, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Anthony Muñoz. Anthony, how's everything doing?
Great. How you doing today?
I'm
Thanks for
doing
having me.
absolutely glad you have the time. Yeah, honestly, we're just waiting for football season. That's all we really can do.
That's right, Zach. I'm ready to get the camp going. I'm ready to, they've been talking about eliminating a little bit preseason. I'm not sad by that. So I'm just ready to see some football.
Yeah. No, I've been watching Korean baseball, but it's on late, and I'm like, all right, Sundays, got nothing going on. I'm like, where we get 60 minutes. That's it. There's nothing else going on. So yeah, no. It's wild. It's wild. No, but what kind of, how have you been keeping busy during all this pandemic stuff going on?
A lot going on. I still have trying to figure out stuff with. I got a couple of small companies. I got a foundation that we're trying to, reschedule, reinvent. I guess a lot of events going from live to virtual. An old guy like myself learning Zoom as we're doing today. Learning. Been doing videos. I've been getting a lot of different technology down. And it's been very helpful. Besides that, hanging out with my wife and just getting through this, playing a little bit of golf. I've made two little golf trips, and then trying to get out and play some golf. So yeah, it's it's been tough early on, but lately getting back to the office and really trying to get things rolling. Spending some time with grandkids, my wife. So I'm one that always tries to find something to keep me busy.
Definitely, yeah, because you gotta have something going on. There's just so much nothing right now, and this right now is a perfect excuse for people to not do anything. They have an opportunity, but for some people, you can't.
You're right, and I'm thankful, Zach, that every house that I've had a weight room, a fitness center. So
cool.
For me to go downstairs, spend an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just get away from everything and work out. For an old guy, I got to keep moving, keep my body moving, keep the aches and pains away. So that's been a saver. I mean, because a lot of people have complained that all the gyms have been closed. And I understand that. I think if I didn't have a gym, I think it would be a lot tougher not being able to work out. I don't run anymore, so I couldn't maybe yard work, which I'm doing a lot of. But, going down and doing a lot of cardio, doing a lot of lightweight stuff, body weight stuff, that's been really good for me.
Yeah, I see some of the gyms, they're doing some stuff they're doing spin classes. Right. They're bringing the stuff outside. But I got an email last week, Planet Fitness, they're like, oh, yeah, we're reopening. And I'm like, what? I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm like, I still gotta call them. I keep putting it off. No, but yeah. So speaking of your early career, so how did you end up at USC?
Well, growing up 40 miles from the campus, I grew up in Ontario, California, about 40 miles east of LA. Of course, very involved in athletics, and then of course USC always had that national TV game on. Back in the day, you're much younger. There was an announcer, Keith Jackson, who we just lost not too long ago. So you knew if you played on Saturday, Keith Jackson was announcing your college game, you were one of 2 or 3 games, and that was it. So I got to watch a lot of USC football when I was growing up, and that was a dream of mine, to go to school and to go to play football at USC. So when they started to recruit me, man, it was pretty much a done deal. It was like Cardinal and Gold, Trojan, the big white horse, I'm there. So, back in the 70s when I came out of high school, USC was, winning national championships and going to Rose Bowls and, All-Americans, Heisman Trophy winners, and pumping out #1 picks. And as a high school kid, man, I wanted to be one of those guys. I wanted to experience that. So that's why I went to USC.
Do you think USC has lost some of the glory it used to have now? Because now it's like we don't always talk is SEC.
You know what? I think it has, but I think it hasn't. You talk to people and you talk to some coaches that have been in the coaching business for a lot of years. They still refer to USC as, if not probably one of the top most desirable head coaching jobs. Yeah. So that speaks volumes. I know they've been through a lot, since the Pete Carroll days. Hopefully, things are rolling back around. I've been watching closely the recruiting progress, and it seems to be getting much better. The whole Reggie Bush thing, getting put on probation.
Yeah,
that was amazing. One guy dealing with not even a USC alumni, it was pretty much a death penalty. And it was sad to see that happen, but it's taken a while to bounce back from that. And all the other schools, there's so many great universities now. So recruiting has become really tough, man. There was a day when USC used to lock down California and then go out and get whoever they wanted around the country. And that doesn't happen now. Hopefully we can get back to that. But as far as I'm concerned, I've been out 40 years now from USC. To me, it's still the best university in the country. And I still love the place. The guys that played there went to school there. feel the same way. We just want to get back to where it should be, and that's in the top 10 every year. Hopefully in the top 5 every year. That's where USC should be.
Absolutely. And then, so is it true you played baseball too, in addition to football?
I did. That was the one thing. Baseball was my first love growing up as a kid. And I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. That was my childhood dream. So when I started to get recruited for football, I wanted to make sure if I could that they would allow me to play baseball. Of course, USC had a track record of letting guys play baseball, even on a football scholarship. And, I was All-State 3 years in high school, baseball, third baseman. And because they had the track record, right away they said, you can play baseball here. The only rule was your freshman year, you have to go through spring practice. After that, you're free to play baseball in the spring. So I went there with that agreement. Of course, a lot of times when you plan things out, they don't necessarily happen the way you plan them. And of course, that was my 4 years at USC. I only played 1 year of baseball, 1 full healthy season of football. I had 3 knee operations in 4 years. All those things I shared with you about wanting to experience at USC. Most of that didn't happen because of injuries. In high school, I played football, basketball, and baseball for 4 years. I went from sport to sport to sport, and I rarely missed a game because of injury. Now, in my 4 years at USC, I had 3 knee operations. Freshman year, missed. I got hurt 7 games in the season. Junior year, 7 games in the season. And then my senior year was the very first game of the season. Second time we had the football. I missed the entire season. Wow. So, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because it taught me a lot about myself, how we can push ourselves beyond adversity and setbacks. And really, I believe those 4 years at USC really built into me what I needed to know, not only as an adult, but in the NFL, as the Bengals took a chance after only playing 1 game my senior year. Like I mentioned, got hurt second time we had the football my first game. I rehabbed after surgery and played the entire Rose Bowl game 4 months after my surgery. So that helped out. And like I said, growing up in a single-parent home, my mom worked 2-3 jobs, taught us work ethic, responsibility, and then going through that adversity in college, I think it really set the table for me to work. Really, guys thought I was nuts the way I was pushing it to get back for that game. I knew we would win again because my junior year, we won the national championship. We had a lot of the same guys back. So I was determined. I got the okay from the doctor and the head coach, and I was back January 1st playing in the Rose Bowl. So, a lot of times, like I said, you plan things. Yeah. Things might not happen the way you plan it, but you have to just keep busting your tail and know that things are going to work out, and they worked out.
I think that's just a good mantra for life. It's not just football.
Yeah,
just you
exactly.
plan everything, something's out of your control. Yeah. So that's wild. And so what was your draft process like? Because you were a little bit banged up, and how did that go about?
Well, it was uncertain. I mean, a lot of uncertainty. I go into that senior year, having played a lot of games my junior year, but getting hurt for the second time. I was healthy. I was ready for that senior year, probably in the best shape ever, as strong as ever, running, lifting, getting ready. And before the season, I was projected. A lot of the projections were top 5 pick. Of course, after I got hurt, it was maybe a free agent, maybe not even getting a free agent shot.
Wow.
Maybe that was it. And after that Rose Bowl, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I wanted to make sure that physically I was ready. I went through all the combine stuff. And I felt if I didn't get a chance in the NFL, it wasn't going to be because I wasn't physically back. I wasn't physically ready. And so really a lot of uncertainty. Like I said, the draft rolled around, 4 months after I played that Rose Bowl. And, we were married. My wife and I had been married about 2.5 years. There was like 3 other guys that were married. We were living in the same 1-bedroom apartment complex. We're all anxious, waiting to see what was happening. The other guys knew that they'd probably be drafted, but I didn't know. So we're waiting to see what happened. And, really all I wanted, even if it was as a free agent, I wanted a chance to go to an NFL camp and see if I could compete on that level. Of course, shortly after the draft started, with the 3rd pick in the entire draft, the Bengals select me. And, man, I was blown away. My wife and I were, if you want to see a big 6'6", 300-pound guy cry, that was that morning when I was weeping tears of joy and happiness. And then after the dust kind of cleared, I said to my wife, we're going to Cincinnati. And she looked at me and said, "Where's Cincinnati?" And I said, "Well, we better find out." I didn't know where Cincinnati was either. I wasn't real strong in geography. I hadn't left California other than playing, college games. It's home now. We know exactly where Cincinnati is. We've been here a long time. That's awesome. Made it home after our playing career, and we both fell in love with it, both raised in Southern California. So that's how it was. And again, that was, people were talking about, the draft being virtual this year, not in person. And, that's basically what we went through. My year was the first year that ESPN covered the draft. But they weren't flying guys to New York. They didn't have analysts with videos on different guys. But it was the first year they covered it. And it was just in your apartment waiting for a call, And so that was the excitement of the draft. But after I got that call, really shortly after the draft started, man, it was, okay, I'm getting this opportunity. It's time to turn the volume up now in preparation. And not that I wasn't busting it before them, because even after the Rose Bowl, for those 4 months leading up to the draft, I mean, I just turned the volume up, and I knew that I had to be ready regardless of what was going to happen. So now I had a camp I could go to.
Yeah. And
then I'm getting ready.
I have a question. What were they saying after you got drafted? Because if it was on television, what were the people saying?
Well, I'm sure a lot of the fans in Cincinnati were scratching their head thinking, boy, this organization has lost their mind. They're drafting a guy who hadn't played a whole lot of college games. Can he make it through a year? There was a lot of doubt. I mean, I remember doing a talk show. The host was from Cincinnati, and I had my freshman roommate at USC was taken in the 11th pick for the Chiefs as a guard. So there was 2 of us in the top 15 pick. And I'll never forget doing a talk show here locally in Cincinnati after the draft. And the talk show host was questioning the draft pick. He thought that the Bengals had made a mistake by drafting me and not my teammate. And so, there was a lot of uncertainty, and rightly so. I mean, for a kid that played one game, his senior year after going through 3 knee operations, I think it was justified with a lot of questions. But so that added to the incentive, the motivation of, okay, now I had to come here and prove that the Bengals made the right choice, that I could last a full season. And of course, I didn't miss my first game until my 11th year. So it was, I dislocated elbow. I had to miss a game or 2. But prior to that, I was there every Sunday playing every game. So that was an incentive. The personal goals kind of took over. Your team goals of making the playoffs, getting to the Super Bowl, but then the personal goals, coming into camp, earning that starting job. I wanted to play 10 plus years. I wanted to start every year. Every time I put the uniform, I wasn't going to be happy with just being a member of the team. I wanted to start. I wanted to make the Pro Bowl every year. I wanted to be considered, so those were all the personal goals. So during the season, I worked towards that. The off season was probably more important because it's my weight training, my conditioning, studying tape, and working on my technique. So it was a 12-month-a-year deal for me that I wanted to make sure that my performance was high my rookie year and even higher my 8th, 9th, 10th year. And that was my whole approach that I took.
Did that TV host ever call you back and say, hey, my bad?
You know what? I became really close friends with them. And to this day, we're great friends.
Oh, cool.
And, we've been able to go out and speak a few times together and share that story. And he says, you know what? I was wrong. I apologize. But, we joke about it. And like I said, he's a great friend. And I don't remind him too often.
That's awesome. Because I feel like Cincinnati's a little bit different than Southern California.
Just a little bit. Late October, my rookie year, I walk into the locker room and we have thermal underwear in our locker. And I'm going, okay, what is this for? Never had thermals in Southern California. Well, this is a snow, some snow attire. You need snowshoes and regular shoes. And I'm thinking, wait, we got here. My wife and I had to buy her some winter coats. I think I had maybe a windbreaker,
Wow.
and a sweatshirt. So, but you know what? Fell in love with it right away. I didn't mind the winters. I still don't mind the winters. I don't mind putting on a nice coat and a beanie cap and stuff. But it was a little different. Hard to find good Mexican food. My family's from Mexico. My mom made home run type of homemade flour tortillas. It was hard to find that when I first got here. I would pray every year that we had some West Coast games because I knew on the way home my whole duffel bag would be filled with frozen Mexican food as I'd bring it home. The only problem I had to hide it from my teammates because they knew that I would bring that on board. And so I put a stash on the top of my bag for them and a stash on the bottom that I'd bring home for my family. And we didn't eat very many meal planes on the way home from West Coast games because there was a lot of great Mexican food being heated up on the plane. So it was different, but it's grown. The Hispanic community's grown here.
Cool.
You can find some pretty good Mexican food, and this is home, man. This is a great place.
How soon into your career did you find like a good Mexican restaurant that you were like, okay, I'm going here again?
It was a few years. I'm sure people like Taco Bell, but that's there's some families that started to move here from Mexico and different Latin America, countries and stuff like that, and started to build some stuff. So I'd say it's probably a good 10 years before there was really, really authentic, good Mexican food. And now you can drive all over and find little places in, a lot of the food's pretty good. So I just got to make sure that I kind of divide my time up equally amongst them all, because where you been? You've been at the other places and stuff, but no, it's gotten pretty good here.
That's awesome. And then was there an adjustment period for you before your rookie season started? Was there like an adjustment period for you to kind of get accustomed to the NFL game, or was it pretty easy for you?
Well, I wouldn't say only prior to my rookie. I think it was during the whole rookie year. It was like, welcome to the NFL. The first 2 of the first 5 weeks, I had a chance to play against Leroy Selman.
Wow.
Sadly enough, we lost at a young age, but he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He played right defensive end for the Buccaneers. I played against him in the preseason, and then we opened up this season. Sherman Smith, from the Buffalo Bills, who actually played his early career here with the Bengals. There was a lot of guys. Cedric Hartman, who was towards the end of his career. Elvin Bethea. So it was kind of like, okay, I got to be able to forget things quickly. Have a short memory during games. And these guys were amazing. Even late in their career, they were still unbelievable, which is obvious by their Hall of Fame induction. So yeah, it took me a while, and even even after your first year, you're still making adjustments and still learning, still making tweaks here and there. But that rookie year was like, okay, you think you're big stuff. Don't think that you're too big, because here you are, 21, 22, and you're playing against guys that are 28, 29. Not only physically the top of their game, but they've got that experience on you. And so they know what's going on a little bit better than what you do. So, but it was fun. That's what I loved. That's what I loved about the game. Year 1, even year 12, 13, I was still learning, still making adjustments. So it was a great experience.
Who's the toughest person you've ever had to block?
Well, there's a lot of them. Playing left tackle for 13 years in the NFL. But probably I could probably give you 10, 11 names. But I always say the one guy that was the total package, played against him probably 5, 6 times, had to be Bruce Smith for the Buffalo Bills.
Interesting.
Guy was amazing. Size, speed, strength, smart, quickness. People hear speed and quickness. Think, isn't that the same thing? No. There's quickness in their speed. He was so talented, they could cock him inside over the nose, and he was a natural defensive end. But he's probably the best that I ever played against. I mentioned Leroy Selman, Fred Dean. I can go on and on, name guys, but definitely Bruce Smith.
What about like Reggie White? Was he something?
Well, Reggie White's probably the best I ever watched. Fortunate for me, he was on the other side. He played left defensive end against our right tackle. But I did see him a couple times in the Pro Bowl. I had to play a little right tackle, and I'm thinking, okay, this would have been a long afternoon. This would have been, if I had to play him an entire game during the regular season, this would have taken every ounce, every technique, every, bit of experience, because he was amazing.
Yeah. And then so I understand that you implemented a very rigorous workout routine very early on in your career at home. What prompted you to do that, and then what was it like?
Well, I think a lot of it came from the injuries I had in college, being able to get back quickly for that senior year Rose Bowl. I took up running, jogging, running, of course, weightlifting. I really started to pound it my junior, senior in college. So that was something that carried over. Getting ready for my rookie year in the NFL, I just started running. Distance is something, for a big lineman, which rare. Right? I'd run sometimes 4 miles a day. And then I'd incorporate sprints and do football technique. And that happened through my whole career. From like the last game of the season in the NFL till probably, I don't know, early April, late April, I'd do distance. I probably ran 5-6 miles every day.
Oh, wow.
And once I got ready, close to mini camp, I would start incorporating interval training, sprints. But even during the season, Monday we would come in and lift weights and, watch our tape and, lift and I would run 2-3 miles on Monday. And then Tuesday I'd come in, which was a day off. I'd do some more weightlifting, run a little more distance, and then practice hard Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And even Friday at lunch, I would do more weight training and do a little, not as much distance, but a little bit. And that would give me all day Friday afternoon and then all day Saturday to get ready for the game. And that was pretty much a routine I had year round. And it was one of those things that I continued to do not only during my 13 years, but even now that I've been retired forever. Working out is something that I love to do.
Would you kind of scale it back a little bit after the season to take a little bit of break, or you just
I might take 1 day off, 2 days off, because for me, I felt that I'd raised my conditioning so high, week 16, maybe playoffs. Why take a month off and lose it all, and then you'd have to ramp back up? I would just start hitting it again 1 or 2 days after my last game. Maybe it's because I didn't like the feeling of your body once you lose some of that condition, then you're working back. So I would just hit it. Now, my thing was for 13 years, it was year round. I was probably in better cardio shape during the off season than I was during the season.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was just pretty much a 12-month deal for me. And it was pretty cool for me. I was at a golf tournament in Florida, and I met the two brothers. They played center, one for the Steelers and one for the Chargers, and they played Miami, and they paid one of the highest compliments. They were like 2-3 years into the league, and I went over to introduce myself, and they got up out of their carts and came over and wanted to meet me. And one of the first things they said is that they had implemented the workout training regiment that I had talked about when I was playing. And they said, neither one of us take maybe a day off after the regular season, and we get back into running and lifting. They said, if it worked for you, we had to do it. So that was really a compliment as far as conditioning. And they continue to do that. That's just what I did. I felt that I once I got to camp, I didn't have to worry about my conditioning. I could focus on strategy. I could focus on technique and what I had to do as an offensive lineman. And I really never worried about my conditioning because I could practice all day long and felt pretty good.
What percentage of guys nowadays do you think show up to camp out of shape?
It's hard to say because I'm not around the game that much. I know that, they have the OTAs around the facility a little more. So, I would hope that I could say that maybe a smaller percentage show up to camp not out of shape, but I really don't know because I'm not around that part of the game. I don't start really getting around it until I get into the preseason games because I do the preseason games on TV for the Bengals. But like I said, I would hope that the percentage is very low because what's going on. Unlike this year with COVID-19, they're usually around doing quite a bit in the off season.
I have a question. When you first glance at a tackle or a guard prospect the first time, how quickly can you tell, okay, this kid's got it?
Well, I think, early on in my career, probably midway, I could tell, you look at the intangibles, you look at flexibility, you look at foot speed, you look at how they use their hands. And of course, you look at attitude. You can tell attitude when you see guys, When the first time I watched Quentin Nelson with the Colts, I said, he's got an attitude. I mean, the guy, I don't think he likes anybody, especially defensive linemen. But you can see it. I mean, you can see the way they move. You can see their work ethic. You can see how they're not satisfied with what they're doing. That's the fun thing for me now is to watch guys in college. And then once they get into the pros, watch them early on and see how they're going to progress. There's certain things that will pop out right away.
And then I have a question. So you lined up at receiver multiple times, and you caught a couple touchdowns. Did you keep the balls?
I do. I have four. I caught 4 touchdowns as a tackle eligible playing the tight end position. Of course, you have to report. The official announces it over the loudspeaker, so it's not like I'm sneaking in at tight end. But yeah, I got all 4 balls that I caught the touchdowns.
That's awesome.
Boomer Esiason threw all 4. There was a company. I'm not sure if they still do it. There was a company up in Minnesota that you would send the ball up with all the garb that you wanted written on it, and they would paint it and send it back. So yeah, it has like the score of the game, the opponent, the touchdown number 1, the date. So it has everything you want to know about what team I caught them against and what the date was and what the score of the game was.
That's awesome. That's sweet.
I'm just glad they didn't put the average yard per catch because it would be like, I don't know if I had at least maybe it was like 1.2 yards per catch. So I'm glad they didn't put that on the football.
At least I'm glad they sent them back because it feels like the kind of thing that be like, oh, this company never existed. No, that's interesting. And then so from all the accolades you achieved in your career, so Pro Bowls, awards, being named to all-time team, 75th anniversary team, 100-year NFL all-time team, which ones kind of did it mean the most to you because you knew how much work you put in and how much dedication to hone your craft? Which one felt the –
Yeah, there's no question. You mentioned a bunch of them that are very significant, mean a lot. But I think that the 2 that are actually in my family room has to be the first one I received was at the time it was called the NFL Man of the Year. Now it's the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And then that's given through the NFL. And then another one I received, which is given – it's a NFL-sanctioned breakfast. But Athletes in Action gives out their Bart Starr Award.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, 2 awards named after 2 amazing, not only football players, but individuals. Those are probably the 2 awards because not only does it take into consideration what you've accomplished on the field, but it's who you are off the field, what you've done in the community, what you've done with your family. And that's always been very important. So those two awards, the NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year and the Athletes in Action Bart Starr Award, are probably two of the most meaningful awards that I've received in my career.
Did the Bengals do a lot in the communities early on in your career? Was what kind of stuff were you guys doing?
Yeah, Tuesday was always a day to go out in the community. That was something that they've always encouraged.
Oh, cool.
Excuse me, even now they encourage it. So yeah, they select their Man of the Year for the season. So yeah, it's great to see. They have a lot of events going on during the regular season. And of course, Cincinnati being home, I get to watch a lot of that in the news and what the guys are doing. Several of the players have their own foundations, so they're having an impact. And not only are they doing great things on the field, but guys like Carlos Dunlap and Michael Johnson, defensive lineman, and a young man that was here that not only did an excellent job on the football field, but in the community, Andy Dalton, just as good as you can be as an individual. Him and his wife were very active in the community. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that they get it done on the field with their families, but also give them back to the community.
And speaking of that, so how did you come up with the concept for your foundation?
Well, it's something that I always wanted to do, but I wasn't going to do it during my playing days. I understand your name is recognizable, you have leverage, you're relevant, but I was a husband, a father, and then I had to play to provide for my family. So if I wanted to start a foundation, I wasn't going to have the time to be totally engaged. And when I do things, I want to be totally engaged. So I helped other organizations. It wasn't until 8 years after I retired, both my kids went off to college and they were playing college sports. And it was about their sophomore, junior years in college when I knew they'd be finished soon. And then I'd have some extra time. I wouldn't follow them around to watch their events and doing their thing. So it was in 2002 when 8 years after I retired, that I started the foundation. I knew what I wanted to do, who I wanted to get as part of the team, and really pretty much had the impact programs set in place. So yeah, it wasn't until 8 years after I retired that it started.
That's awesome. That's incredible work you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then, so I have one other question. Who's the best tackle in the league today, in your opinion?
Wow. That's a great question. There's some good ones. I don't know. It's hard for me to say who the best one is. If I say Smith of Dallas, people would say, well, he's another USC guy. So, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear that. I'm tired of hearing that. Is it Taylor Lewan at the Titans? Pretty good. A couple guys have been hurt. You look at, and I know their names are going to escape me right now. But from Washington.
Trent Williams, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of them. So there's some good young ones. There's some good young ones. There's been some good young ones that have been drafted. So I'm excited to see how they pan out and how they do. But I still enjoy watching the guys. And, one of the first guys, as you just heard, I didn't mention the tackle. I mentioned the guard, and Quentin Nelson for the Colts. And it's funny, a USC guy, give him props to a Notre Dame guy. But no, he's a heck of a player. But I still enjoy it. And like you mentioned to me earlier and asked me about, how easy it to see guys. I love watching guys in college and then seeing the transition to the NFL to see, how well they do in college and to see if they carry over into the NFL and will they be tackles or will they move them to guards or will they, so I always like to try to predict that to myself and say, okay, this guy's a pretty good tackle, but I see him as a guard. And a lot of times that happens. I said, no, this guy's going to be a tackle. He's going to be a good one. So that's always something that I enjoy doing and watching and trying to make predictions on that end.
What were your thoughts on Mekhi Becton from Louisville when he ran the 40 and he?
That's the thing. These guys, man, are like, they're nuts. And who's the guy in Wisconsin? Was it Wisconsin who jumped out of the swimming pool?
From Wirfs. Is it Wirfs?
Yeah, Wirfs. The guy's 3+ and he's underwater and he jumps out of the water onto the ledge. I'm thinking, that's crazy. But yeah, the 40 times for how big these guys are and how well they move. Very impressed with those individuals. So those are the guys that, I want to see how they do on the next level. Yeah. Running the 40 is great, but can you move laterally and stay in front of those fast 4-3, 4-4 defensive ends that are coming? So, they get their hands on these other guys, they're going to, they'll stabilize them. But, so I'm looking forward to this season getting rolling and hopefully see how they do.
Definitely. And then, so we're talking Bengals. Obviously, the number one pick took Joe Burrow. How excited are you for this team for the future?
You know what? Not only that pick, but I think I look at the overall offseason, all the free agents they signed. Hopefully they can come in and produce the way they were producing. But the fact that just about every free agent they signed has playoff experience. Yeah. Something that's been lacking here for several years. I mean, Andy Dalton got into the playoffs quite a bit. Of course, the big knock is not winning a playoff game. But all these free agents, it starts with the free agents, bringing them in, playoff experience. Then you look at the draft picks. 6 of the 7 were team captains. You had 1 3-time team captain. Higgins, the only guy that wasn't a team captain, he left Clemson early. And I've talked to an individual that knew his position coach very, very well and said if he comes back for a senior year, he's probably a captain. So you have 6 of the 7 that were college captains, 1 3-time. I think 3 or 4 of the draft picks, their dads are high school coaches. So the culture to me seems like, man, we're getting leaders. We're getting guys that are captains, guys that have playoff experience, so they know what it means to get there. So I'm excited about what's going on. You still got to get on the field and work together with young quarterback and come, put it together and win football games. But I like what's going on so far here.
Definitely. And then, so what was it like going to Canton? Just like
I've been in 22 years. I still pinch myself. It's a 3-hour drive from Cincinnati to Canton. I was sad to see the announcement that it's being canceled this year because my wife and I drive up there every year. I'm up there every year. Like I said, I pinch myself. It is an honor and a privilege to be up there. I'm still like a kid being around all the guys. And, I've seen a lot of guys come and go. That's the sad part about it. You see guys that you get a chance to be around, the Merlin Olsons, the Bart Stars, the Deacon Jones, and those type of guys that, we lose. But, Bobby Mitchell. And so it's just an honor. I mean, it's very humbling to know that I can put the gold jacket on, that I could go up to Canton, Ohio, Hall of Fame weekend, and be a teammate of all those guys. And as Deacon Jones would say, we are now on a team where you can't be traded, cut, or waived. You're on this team forever with those guys.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I got one last question for you. So with all the stuff that's been going on the past few months, what's the most exciting thing you've done or something you've been like, I didn't think I would enjoy it that much?
Oh, wow. Probably doing what I'm doing here with you for an old guy, learning all this technology, getting somewhere and talking with bullet points. And do you need PowerPoint? No. Do you need just saying, hey, all I need is a lapel pin or lapel mic. But now doing Zoom and doing, all these, I've been making videos and, so it's, I guess during this period of time, it's just learning all the technology that I've been learning. And, I guess being an old dog and learning some new tricks.
Yeah, I've been on the phone with Verizon customer service helping my parents fix their cable like 6 times. So that's been helpful. So
I got some young staff with my businesses. Of course, my son and daughter are pretty young, and of course, we got some grandkids at at 8, 9, 10. I can call them up, and they're like, "Oh, Poppy, here you go, boom, boom, boom," and I'm like, "Okay, thanks, guys." But no, it's been fun that way.
Yeah, my dad's like, I'm going to return something from Amazon. I'm like, if you didn't want it, don't buy it. So it's fine. And then, so for people that want to find your foundation, how can they find it easily?
Just go to MuñozFoundation.org. Muñoz, M-U-N-O-Z, foundation.org. You can see everything we do, from all our programs to how to donate financially. And if you're in the Cincinnati area, how to, volunteer and help us out with the programs we do. So again, that's MuñozFoundation.org.
Awesome. Well, this has been a ton of fun. I'm so glad I was able to get to for a few minutes. I was so glad you were able to talk.
Zach, thank you. Appreciate it. Great talking to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.